Thanks for tuning to the Ontario Reshard Show today. Our guest is a songwriter. Um, he's a producer, recording artist, actor. He's a motivational speaker, author, and he has TV credits, film credits, Broadway credits. Of course, you may remember him from the biopic of The Temptations. He played the character Eddie Kendricks, a wonderful legend, Eddie Kendricks. Let me rephrase that. Of course, he's been on Career Enthusiasm and Ally McBeal, hanging with Mr. Cooper. But today he's with us, the one, the only, Terron Brooks. How you doing, Mr. Brooks?
What's up, man? I'm
Yes,
happy to be here.
yes, sir. It's definitely an honor. I know you could have been doing anything else, but you're here with us, so we definitely appreciate you sharing your time.
Thanks for asking me, man.
Yes, sir. Um, for the listeners that's listening to this conversation, who is Mr. Brooks away from the stage, uh, from away from the cameras and all those wonderful things that you do? Like, who is the person behind all those different
Man, I'm just a dad. I'm a husband.
things?
Sunday I'll be celebrating 22 years of marriage, man.
Oh, congratulations!
Um, I'm a regular person.
Mhm.
The funny thing you asked me, well, how am I outside of wherever I am known
Mhm.
from?
Yeah.
I'm the same.
Mhm.
I like to be the same. There's no extra, there's no putting on nothing. If you meet me or
Mhm.
you see me,
Mhm.
um, it's good to be at a level where you love yourself
Mhm.
and you just be yourself, and
Indeed.
hopefully people start to accept you and you accept
Mhm.
yourself as that. So I would
Mhm.
say, yeah, but mostly I'm a family man.
Mhm.
I love hard. I love my friends. I'm a
Mhm.
supporter. I'm an encourager, probably
Yes,
more
sir.
than an artist.
Mhm.
My main gift or my main thing to do is just cheerlead somebody else and make sure
Mhm.
somebody else feels encouraged. I do that through music and my career and stuff like that, but
Mhm.
that's
Mhm.
probably my number one thing. So
Yes, sir. And of course, you're originally from Long Beach, California. Of course, that's the home of 213, Snoop, and many other great artists as well. So, how was life growing up in Long Beach?
well, the funny thing is, I was born in Long Beach.
Mm-hmm.
I only lived there for a couple years before I moved to Orange County. So
Mm-hmm.
my parents moved me from Long Beach to Orange County.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even think they knew what they were getting into, but it was a unique experience being
Mm-hmm.
probably the only chocolate boy
Oh,
there.
wow.
But I learned a lot and I got a
Mm-hmm.
lot of attention
Mm-hmm.
that kind of helped me in my career
Mm-hmm.
right now. So
Mm-hmm.
Orange County, I went to a performing arts high school.
Mm-hmm.
And my parents, it wasn't like I was 6 years old and they were like, "Oh, he's got a gift. We got to move." They
Mm-hmm.
just followed God, and it was a great school system that we moved to. So I don't know much about Long Beach, but we went to church in Long Beach, and that's where I
Mm-hmm.
had a foundation. I went to, I don't know if anybody knows Long Beach churches, but Gospel Memorial, shout out to
Mm-hmm.
Gospel Memorial Church of God in Christ,
Mm-hmm.
Greater Harvest Church in Long Beach,
Mm-hmm.
some major staple churches. So I still had that affiliation with
Yeah.
Long Beach, and then we lived in Orange County until I graduated from high school and moved to LA. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And of course, you have a very unique vocal tone. So, how would you, I guess, say that you developed that particular vocal tone? Because considering that you hear this person from California, that person from California, that's incredible. But how did you create your own unique sound? Should I say?
It took a long time. Man, I listened to
Hmm.
Luther, Brian
Hmm.
McKnight, Babyface, Tracy
Hmm.
Chapman, The
Yeah.
Winans, Fred Hammond.
Hmm.
Um, you're trying to find your sound,
Hmm.
and the falsetto, which is pretty interesting
Hmm.
to portray Eddie Kendricks having the
Yeah.
falsetto. I
Hmm.
was already kind of doing that.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think it was a lot of influences rolled into one.
Hmm.
Um, Philip Bailey from Earth, Wind and
Yeah.
Fire, all of those different Sam Cooke,
Hmm.
Smokey Robinson, all of those people kind of
Hmm.
is in there. And
Hmm.
then I believe that once I started to write my own songs, I
Hmm.
started to make a voice for myself, even though I had all those influences rolled up into one. But
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, you can hear it in the music. There's like Tracy Chapman, there's Babyface in
Hmm.
there, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kind of a soul folky kind of voice,
Yeah.
I guess.
Hmm. Yeah. I can
Yeah.
see that. And of course, as I mentioned in the opening, you're a singer, you're a touring artist, you do acting, you produce, all these different things. So what was the driving force to, I guess, inspire you to even get into the entertainment industry?
Man, that's a good question. I think I tried to run away from that thing for the
Mhm.
longest time. Dip my toe in, go back,
Yeah.
because it's not easy.
Hmm.
I think purpose. I think when you find purpose in life, you
Hmm.
pursue purpose, and not
Hmm.
only just purpose, because that's a thing, but
Hmm.
when to me God created me a certain kind of way, you know what I mean,
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
do something for the world,
Hmm.
it becomes easier because
Hmm.
even though it's my purpose and I really want to do it, I do feel like I am sent by somebody. I feel like
Hmm.
I'm like serving somebody bigger than me that's giving me the
Hmm.
energy and the power. It took a long time because
Hmm.
if you're doing your own thing, you're gonna feel that. You're gonna feel the
Yeah,
burden of doing your own thing, and oh
indeed.
man, I don't really think this is my own thing. I think these are
Hmm.
desires that I have. I love what
Hmm.
I do, but I think it was given to me, if that makes
Hmm.
sense. So it makes
Yes.
it easier to say, hey, this is not necessarily my thing, but this
Hmm.
is God's thing. And I said yes to it. And then I'll go wherever He says to go. And it's really taken me into so many different places because once you're just rigid on, I'm just going to do this or I'm just going to do this, you're
Hmm.
missing a lot of opportunities for growth. It doesn't mean that you're
Yes.
necessarily going to do all these. You mentioned
Hmm.
so many things at the beginning that I
Hmm.
do. Sound like a Jamaican. I do so much. But it's
Um,
really in all cultivating all of that, and they all kind of
mhm.
come together to make one thing instead of me just saying, I'm just a singer. And I did that when I was young. I just want to win a Grammy, want to get a
Mhm.
record deal. That was it, you know?
Mhm.
And so I would not be where I am today if I missed some of the other avenues and cues that got
Mhm.
through my way, you know?
Indeed. And then, of course, you just released two smash hits. You have Honest, and you came back and gave us Uncomfortable. So, can you share the stories behind those two particular songs?
Yeah, man, this album's coming out this summer. Is it's
Hmm.
taking me it's a while to get out there, but it's basically my therapy sessions. It's
Hmm.
basically the most real. I'm always honest through my music. I'm always encouraging, but very specific with these songs. I think that the world needs a lot of healing. I think
Hmm.
Black men need a lot of healing. I think
Indeed.
people need to know there's no stigma on depression or anxiety or
Hmm.
those real feelings, and you can't really heal what you don't feel, what you don't
Hmm.
know is there. You can
Hmm.
So these songs, man, are just honest, is just telling you what it is, honest,
Yes.
you know.
Hmm.
Some people think it's not good to be honest, right? Don't give it
Hmm.
all away. It
Hmm.
might not serve you. I think it totally serves you when you're honest. And then
Yes.
uncomfortable is came from like George Floyd. When those
Hmm.
conversations, I had so many conversations with people, and it's
Hmm.
uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable when people are grieving. It's uncomfortable when
Yes.
people are going through something.
Hmm.
And so we don't like that. We don't like to
Hmm.
just sit with our friends and our family members when they're not their best. It's
Hmm.
But I've learned an honesty and just letting it be, you know, letting it
Hmm.
be. So the music is hopefully freedom and healing for
Hmm.
people. Of
Yes.
course, it's going to be soulful, you know what I mean, to touch people in the way that I deliver it. But
Hmm.
the message and the lyrics, man, if you really just read through them, they're,
Hmm.
you know, autobiography of my life, really.
Hmm. And what is the main message you want to convey with your music? Is it hope? Is it love? What's the main message that you want to really hit home?
Man, that's good. I mean, I always go back to love,
Hmm.
really, just love. I love
Hmm.
people. I'm trying to love myself. That's probably what
Hmm.
the music is trying to just try to struggle through. Do I love
Yes.
myself as is? Do I love
Hmm.
myself when I'm not perfect? Do I love
Hmm.
myself, you know, knowing everything I've been through and love those
Hmm.
things that may not be favorable all the time. So love is a big theme, and I
Yes.
also think truth, you know, just we all want to be approved by
Hmm.
everybody else. Let's say
Hmm.
that. And
Hmm.
so you tend not to find your own truth or your own honor or whatever God is telling you to do because you have to look to the left or right to kind of see if everybody else agrees with that. I think my
Hmm.
music, I want to give people permission to follow their own path, as lonely as it
Yes.
may be,
Hmm.
um and to just make your own decisions and your own choices about how you feel about yourself and about other people. You only got one life, man, you know.
Indeed.
So hope, to, you know, all those things you mentioned,
Hmm.
inspiration and hope, but if you're just going to narrow it down, I think love is what we need more of,
Indeed. Yes.
you know?
I definitely agree to that. And just to continue the conversation, you've written and performed many great songs over the years. So, how do you determine? Okay, it's time to release this particular song for this particular season. Like, is there like a something has to happen, or it just you just wake up? And, hey, I'm gonna push out Honest. I'm gonna push out this song, that song. What's the
Well,
process behind those?
for these new singles, it's been like 4 or 5 years because it I
Mm-hmm,
wasn't ready. It wasn't ready.
mm-hmm,
I think it's just a feeling. You just kind of
mm-hmm,
go, I feel like it's time. Normally I just release.
mm-hmm.
I try not to hold on to things because you go like this, you can't
Mm-hmm.
nothing new gets in your hands.
Yeah.
And so you're waiting. This is the song. Well, this is the song. Well, nothing else
Yes.
can be released if you don't release. So
Mm-hmm,
I try to, but I'm independent. You produce it by yourself. You're trying to make it
mm-hmm,
happen the best way you can for yourself. So to answer your question, I think there's a feeling, especially
mm-hmm.
about this project. And I'm so
Yes.
happy I waited
Mm-hmm,
for all the assets and kind of some things to nothing's gonna be perfect, man. Nothing's
mm-hmm.
gonna be
Yeah.
perfect. But life is also too short, so
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to hold on to music because man, if you could see my catalog of songs that I've written that are not produced yet, I got a
Mm-hmm.
lot of work to do. So by producing, it gives me, okay, I can tackle this, I can tackle this. If
Yes.
I don't, I just have this big catalog that nobody can hear. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Mm-hmm. And of course, you've done Broadway, you've done TV, and films. Like, but I want to hone in on two particular projects. One being The Lion King, and two, of course, being The Temptations. Like, how did those particular opportunities come about?
Well, the interesting thing about both of those things is I had a lot about 7 auditions for The Lion King and maybe about 7 or 8 for The Temptations.
Wow.
Persistence, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and gosh, I mean, The Temptations, you can't even dream that. I just
Mm-hmm.
went to the audition thinking, let me just go down there and say hi to meet people. Like, since this is not going to happen, I really wasn't
uh,
nervous because I
uh,
was like, and then you get called back and you're like, what?
mhm,
What it really taught me, both those roles too, was what's for you is for you. For the Lion
mhm,
King was especially, and I tell people, the Lion King, they told me no a couple times and I couldn't accept it. Right.
mhm,
Sometimes in your life you gotta accept it. Like you gotta, okay, the writing's on the wall, it's a no.
mhm.
Sometimes you just feel like I gotta go back. I gotta try
Yes.
again. I gotta try
Mhm,
again. So the Lion King, by the time I got the Lion King, I was so proud that I did not give up.
mhm,
And I was happy to do it in New York and in Los Angeles. And so that
mhm,
was just to make my Broadway debut, that was amazing. But The Temptations is still it's just a legacy. 26 years later, I probably get
mhm.
recognized every single day, you know,
Wow.
not just by Black people too,
Yeah, yeah.
anybody.
Mhm,
So it's just to be a part of legacy. That's another thing
mhm,
I love to create with my music. I want to
mhm,
make music that doesn't sound like a particular time so it
mhm.
can live.
Yes.
I'm just honored, man, for it took a while to appreciate Eddie
Mhm.
Corn, Eddie Corn,
Yeah,
my name is
corporate.
Rod, it took a minute, but
Yeah.
now I just appreciate it because what I
Mhm,
say, if that's that joy, if that's that love and hope and love and inspiration that I've given, whether it's
mhm,
just my music or the Temptations, who everybody loves, it kind of doesn't matter. But so
mhm.
many people have responded to that film, and I'm blessed.
Yes, yes, sir. I know that was I think the second thing I saw you in, because I originally saw you in Hanging with Mr. Cooper.
Okay.
And me and my aunt and my uncle were like big Temptations fans. So of course we
Yeah.
sat down and watched the movie. And of course, we seen Corn character. Well, I shouldn't say character because it's a real person, but
Yeah.
that movie was very insightful. I'm not sure how much of it actually happened, but just to hear the dramatization of My Girl and all these different incredible songs that everybody learned over the years. And speaking of that, were you already a fan of the Temptations, and knew those songs, or did you have to go and study these songs and really
I
become Eddie Kendricks?
I mean, who doesn't know the Temptations? Everybody knows the Temptations. Everybody knows
Mm-hmm.
My Girl, right? I had to study Eddie a little bit more. I
Mm-hmm.
loved Just My Imagination. I love the song,
Yeah,
but
love.
I did learn so much about just fame. You
Mm-hmm.
know, those
Mm-hmm.
were five brothers that overnight were
Mm-hmm.
handed everything. They're the
Yeah.
emperors of soul, and they
Mm-hmm.
they there was not really a road paved for that. And so you see the demise of only Otis is the living
Yes.
member. So
Mm-hmm.
it gave me some kind of insight to kind of things that I wanted to do in my career or I didn't want to do or paths that I wanted to go on.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, my parents, my dad, the stylistics, the dramatics, all those
Mm-hmm.
groups, he probably wanted to be a Temptations, if he could sing. So
Yeah.
yeah, I was familiar to a certain extent, but having Smokey on set, having Otis, having
Mm.
Suzanne DePaz,
Wow.
meeting these legendary people that knew Eddie Kendricks, that is different because you're getting
Mm-hmm.
insight from people who actually lived.
Mm-hmm.
And as you saw in the movie, it's like, for 3 months, I felt like a temptation. We had custom suits. We
Yeah.
did the choreography, so whatever the boot camp we went through, it was amazing. And so I tried to honor Eddie without mimicking him.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to do an imitation. I just
Mm-hmm.
wanted to kind of do it an embodiment of
Yes.
his spirit and his character. And fortunately, I think they cast well.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
I
Indeed.
didn't have to be so brilliant just to identify with him, if that makes
Mm-hmm.
sense.
Yes, sir. Um, did you originally just go out for him, or did you audition for other characters?
Yeah, the story. I auditioned for Paul first.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, auditioned for Paul. And it's interesting because my agent just sent me in for Paul. I didn't say, oh no, I'm Eddie Kendricks or I should go, so I auditioned with Paul. Don't Look Back was my audition song.
Mm-hmm.
If it's love that you're looking for, I love
Yeah.
that song. You can't run, you can't. Paul could sing.
Yeah.
You know,
Very underrated. Yeah.
yeah. And then Suzanne DePass, of course,
Mm-hmm.
who is Barry Gordy's right hand,
Yes.
person.
Mm-hmm.
She stopped the audition and she said, "You're Eddie Kendricks." That's
Mm.
what she said. You're Eddie
Wow.
Kendricks. And so from that point on, maybe that was my second audition. I
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to be Eddie Kendricks. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it was amazing for her to see that in me.
Wow.
And it probably suited better than Paul because Christian, my brother, did an incredible job.
Yes, indeed.
Christian, didn't
Yes.
he? Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, sir. And then in this particular segment, we're going to dig deep into the person. But of course, if you don't want to answer a question, just say pass, okay?
Okay, no worries.
So the first one I have for you is also too, some of these were sent in by some of your fans as well. So
Okay.
of course the first one is you've been in the entertainment industry for a while now. What are some of the biggest changes you've seen in the last 5 years or so?
Well, the answer is going to be social media.
Mhm,
It's just so much is available and
mhm,
it's so quick. You don't really have time to absorb. That's why music is very hard.
mhm.
Usually, remember back in the day, well, I don't know if you remember, I remember like on Thursday night, it was like The Cosby Show or
Yeah,
Michael
yeah,
Jackson's going to do a video. You know what I mean? And you
yeah.
had to wait and wait and wait for this one thing. And it was like an
Yeah,
event, right?
yeah,
And
yes.
it had an impact. Now
Mhm,
it's really hard to make an impact that's lasting. It won't last a
mhm,
long, long time,
mhm,
so how do you get people's attention? So to
mhm,
me, for my career and how I have to move, that's what I see is the biggest change. The change
mhm.
is that. And then we have the pandemic, so you have a lot of
Yes.
people who don't, support that they can't
Mhm,
financially do it, or they don't go to see the shows anymore, or
mhm.
they have to
Yeah.
decide. People aren't going to the movies anymore, right? Because they're
Mhm.
streaming so many different platforms.
Yes.
So with more opportunity, which is great, it,
Mhm,
it also becomes more difficult to
mhm,
find things,
mhm,
even when I stroll or stream stuff, I'll
mhm.
start a show and then I'm like, oh, but that one's on, and I'll have to leave
Yeah.
this one to go to the next
Go.
one. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
so keeping focus, I think, is very, very difficult. So uh I don't say that it's a bad thing, social media. I
Mhm,
think it's a great
mhm,
thing, especially for independent artists like me. You can get out there, you can do what you can
mhm,
do.
mhm,
But however, it's just you have to push through a lot. You
mhm,
know what I mean?
mhm.
And then you also have to deal with the comparison. You didn't see as much back in the day, so you didn't know, oh, this person's doing this, or you thought they're
Mm-hmm.
doing this, or this
Yeah.
person doing, and how it affects you on
Mm-hmm.
30 seconds of a scroll when you just put out
Mm-hmm.
your song and you're like, oh, but dang, they did this, or it's you gotta have your feet touching the ground,
Indeed.
and,
Mm-hmm.
and, and just keep on doing it. I say this, people are asking me about the songs, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying it's for who it's for.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
It's not for, if you didn't hear it, if you didn't share it, if you didn't like
Mm-hmm.
it, then it wasn't for you. But if you heard
Mm-hmm.
it and you shared it and you commented, Toronto, I like that, then it was for you,
Indeed.
and trying to be okay with,
Mm-hmm.
the number of followers I have isn't the number of people following me. Let's be
Mm-hmm.
clear. Those are people that signed up
Yeah.
on the roll. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
You're catering to the people who are actually listening. And that could be a
Yes.
very small number. So I don't try to begrudge that number. You know what I mean? I
Mm-hmm.
know the number I see, but there's a
Mm-hmm.
smaller number that that's why I'm doing it for. And I believe if it works for one, two people, three people that really love it. I had someone who passed away.
Mm-hmm.
Their family members said that they passed away to one of my songs. It was playing
Wow.
as they transitioned this earth. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm. Wow.
what is that? So
Mm-hmm. Wow. Because you never know as an artist, you never know how your songs or even as a producer, you don't know how the music's going to affect somebody. It could
no.
be therapy, it can bring joy, it can get them through all these different things in life. So it's always says great to just continue to create. Because, like you said, this song might be for this person, that song might be for that person. So just keep creating creators that's out there that's listening.
Yeah.
Um, so the next one I have for you is, in your opinion, what's been the biggest accomplishment, one, in your life, and secondly, in your career as an entertainer?
Oh man. In my life, biggest accomplishment. I don't want to use my kids as accomplishments, but
Mm-hmm.
they're the first thing that comes to mind. Just trying to be a
Mm-hmm.
good dad. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I'm the
Good.
most proud, not that I'm perfect, but that
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to raise them in a society where it's difficult and give
Mm-hmm.
them an identity, honor their identity of who they are, and pour into
Mm-hmm.
them integrity and godliness and stuff like that. So I
Mm-hmm.
think I'm most proud of them. That I told my son the other night, I was like, "You're just a joy to be around." You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
that's probably, if you're talking about my life, what I
Mm-hmm.
what I love more or what I value most
Mm-hmm.
in my career. The question, was that the question too? My
Yes.
personal life,
Mm-hmm.
and then
Correct. Yes.
in my career, I'm a producer now of my own show,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm really proud of that, because
Yes.
a lot of times as an actor or a singer, I'm doing something for someone else. I'm getting paid to do
Mm-hmm.
someone else's vision. I'm getting.
Mm-hmm.
So to be able to co-create and star in my own arrangements, in my own
Yes.
show, and
Mm-hmm.
produce it is probably the biggest accomplishment for me. Might not look that way for outside people, but for me, I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, this is my vision.
Yeah.
This is. So I want to do more of that in the future, man. More of that
Mm-hmm.
creating. I love
Mm-hmm.
performing and singing and stuff, but also producing other people, or
Mm-hmm.
just being on the other side of how things are created, to ask all those questions. Um, I'm excited about that.
Mm-hmm. And then, of course, as you mentioned, you're a parent. So, what has parenthood taught you the most?
Chill out. Like, you need to chill. I mean, I can just see my kids now.
Mhm.
Sit down somewhere, Dad. Chill, chill. Because I know. I mean, life in general, you're so much. We're anxious people,
Mhm.
and we just don't know the future, and everything is so uncertain, and we want so much for the people that we love. But
Mhm.
the beauty of life is kind of the messiness of life a little bit,
Yes.
when it's
Mhm.
not so perfect, and you just kind of roll with the flow, and you're present, you're not thinking too far ahead.
Mhm.
So I'm not mad at that. When I see that in their eyes, I go, okay, I need, oh, all right. Let's just be here,
Yeah. Yeah.
because they're not there yet. And so
Mhm.
my anxiety is not going to help them get there faster. So
Mhm.
they have brought me a little bit of a chill.
Mhm. And then the next one we have for you: what is the biggest obstacle that you experienced and you really had to exercise your faith in God?
Oh man. Uh there's not one thing that really comes to mind other than getting over the fact that when God gives you something and it doesn't look like you thought it's
Hmm.
supposed to look, or it
Hmm.
didn't happen as fast, or you know what I mean?
Hmm.
So I'm gonna lump all that as the biggest obstacle for me is going, man, this is not what you said,
Hmm.
verbatim,
Yeah.
and going back and then having to go, you sure did say this. You know what I mean? I mean, like I want to travel the world, you know what I mean,
Hmm.
doing my music. So I
Yes.
do my music on a cruise ship. Am I
Hmm.
traveling the world? Yes, sir. You know what I
Yes.
mean?
Yes.
It may look different than I had it
Hmm.
in my mind, but I'm
Hmm.
doing it.
Yeah.
So I think reframing those things uh was the biggest obstacle for me. When I thought it was a failure or it didn't look like black and white like this, I had to go back and go, but yeah, that's I'm doing it, and accept that. So once I did, then that made things much easier for me. So it was hard sometimes when I figure like, you told me to do this and then look at this. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
I've lost homes, I've lost
Hmm.
things where I'm thinking, we think we're so good. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
I'm good. Why is this happening to
Yeah.
me? And
Hmm.
you realize, oh no, no, good and bad things,
Hmm.
things happen. So
Hmm.
getting over the fact that it's not going to look like it is, and also being hopeful, like
Hmm.
just because I don't think it's ever over. Like
Hmm.
I'm that type of dude. I'm stronger than I've ever been. I sing
Hmm.
better than ever. I'm
Hmm.
in better health than I've ever been right now. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So let's go. So I know more, I'm wiser. So I think that's also exciting when you thought it was over and
Hmm.
then you're like, no, it could be a new chapter, a new thing. Let's start this. Um,
And I had some, like I mentioned, I had some people sending some fan questions.
all right.
Uh, so Tiffany out of Dallas wants to know: do you have any advice for actors or actresses?
Well, advice for anybody, any artist, but
Hmm.
actors, know yourself.
Hmm.
Who are you? Can't play someone else until you know who you are to know what
Yes.
the differences that you have with the character, similarities, or the well within yourself.
Hmm.
And so that takes a lot of as you're doing your acting classes and
Hmm.
studying the
Hmm.
craft,
Yes.
study, get down deep into your own makeup of who you are. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Have a love affair of who you are, understand who you are, because most times you are bringing that to a
Hmm.
character, even if it's someone who's not exactly like you. You're
Hmm.
you're bringing something. And not being aware is not the best thing for an actor to have access of something that they don't really know. We
Hmm.
usually know by experience, right? If I'm going to
Hmm.
play a certain character, maybe I didn't shoot anybody, but
Hmm.
what kind of violence have I seen in my life, or do I know? You know what I mean? That's
Hmm.
that's what I'm tapping into.
Yes.
So I would say, yeah, be on that path for your own self
Hmm.
evaluation and your growth as a person. I say that for everybody. I'm a
Hmm.
better performer because I'm a better person.
Hmm.
Just point blank.
Hmm. And then I have another acting question for you. Is it more pressure playing, I guess, in a biopic versus
Mm.
a fictional character? Is it more pressure?
I mean, obviously, people know what you're doing and they know that person.
Hmm.
But I would say the pressure I put on myself is bigger than any pressure from anybody else because I want
Hmm.
to do a good job no matter what that is.
Hmm.
I'm trying to think if I felt pressure when I was playing Eddie Kendricks. I just felt like it was right. I think there's some
Hmm.
situations as an actor that you're in, you took a role that ain't you, or you know what I mean? And the
Hmm.
ability is one thing, but can you really identify? Can that
Yes.
is a lot of pressure,
Hmm.
but if you can find an identifiable tie to something, I think there's less concern. Art is very subjective, man. Like
Hmm.
you're going my advice is that you're going to hear a lot of voices saying that ain't good, you ain't good,
Hmm.
you got to be your own cheerleader person to say, I
Hmm.
think, strive for your very best
Yes.
because, once you say you get out the gate and you're like, I did my very best, and then here comes somebody saying you didn't, and you
Mhm.
take that to heart, you just eliminated everything you thought about yourself, you know?
Mhm.
So pressure, I think the pressure is best coming from yourself if you have
Mhm.
to have pressure than from anybody else. But and being prepared. When you're prepared, you don't have that much pressure because you know what you're doing, you know.
Indeed. Yes, sir. And David out of Chicago wants to know when you go out and sing your original songs, what is the most requested song of yours that people want to hear?
Oh man. There's a song called Contagious that's kind of
Hmm.
my signature song. I think
Hmm.
that people just I think my new signature song is Honest actually now. I
Hmm.
think Honest is Contagious 2.0. But yeah, if you want to download a song called Contagious, I think that's what people
Hmm.
they mimic. You know, when you mimic people's voices, a lot of people mimic me and be like, "I contagious." You know, it's like okay, all right, you know, which is a compliment to me if you
Yes.
know
Hmm.
want to make fun of me or copy me. But yeah,
Hmm.
Contagious is the song I think.
Okay. And then when you're not entertaining others, whether it's the music, whether it's the acting, producing, what are some of your hobbies to just that you have that you do just kind of relax and get away from all the industry stuff?
Man, I love working out. I
Hmm.
love riding my bike at the beach.
Hmm.
I don't swim,
Hmm.
but I love the beach.
Yeah, yeah,
A
yeah.
bike ride on the beach is like my jam. The other day I was in Vancouver, Canada, and
Yes.
I had like an hour and a half ride around Stanley Park. It was the most
Mm-hmm.
beautiful thing I've ever seen, you know. So
Hmm.
nature, I like hiking and stuff like that.
Hmm.
I like to go to the movies. My son is a movie buff, so we go
Hmm.
to we go to the movies.
Hmm.
I like to read. Funny, when I was a kid, I didn't like to read, but I like to read other people's um, stories. That's what I like.
Hmm.
Autobiographical stories about other people,
Hmm.
how they made it through. You know,
Hmm.
not necessarily self-help books, but
Hmm.
motivational books is important to me. So, yeah, listening to music. You know,
Hmm.
nature.
Hmm. And then, of course, you're a life coach as well. So, for people that's listening, that's looking for a life coach, like how can they, I guess, connect with you on that particular?
Yeah, you can just go to my website. It's terronbrooksofficial.com. And
Mm-hmm.
I life coach. I also vocal coach as well, but I
Mm-hmm.
life coach anybody, but mostly artists. I think artists really need a life coach that's not just
Yes.
talking about how we gonna make it, how we gonna make it, but
Mm-hmm.
helping them define who they are outside of what they're doing as well,
Mm-hmm.
is what I really have a passion for artists because it's a special thing, right?
Yes.
And sometimes you're trying to get family members or friends to understand and they just don't understand. And you might
Mm-hmm.
need somebody to in my sessions, I don't really tell people what to do. I can
Mm-hmm.
give some advice, but I'm really saying, well, what are you hearing? I'm
Mm-hmm.
coaching the person to go to make their own decision. What do you think? Because there's really no wrong or right answer. I can tell you what I
Mm-hmm.
think,
Mm-hmm.
so I think sometimes people just need that extra encouragement, that extra
Yeah.
voice,
Mm-hmm.
someone that understands them. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And before we get out of here, who has been the most impactful person in your life that helped shape who you are today?
Oh man, many, many, many people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say two people. There's this woman. Her name is Stevie Meredith, and she passed away a
Mm-hmm.
couple years ago. She's one of my best friend's moms. She was my mentor in high school, my acting
Mm-hmm.
coach. She really brought me out of my shell,
Mm-hmm.
and she literally would say that she sees the light. She's like, I see a
Mm-hmm.
light. And
Yes.
sometimes we're standing in the outside of the light and we need somebody to bring you in. So Stevie Meredith, I shout out to her, and then I can shout out to my parents, anybody. But the second person I would say is my wife. I think my
Mm-hmm.
wife, having somebody who understands what I do, ride or
Mm-hmm.
die, not complaining about the ups and downs is essential, man. And
Mm-hmm.
she wows me with that resilience that she has. She might even not even agree with everything, but she believes in me,
Yes. It's important.
And I gotta give it to her because I've been with people, when you coming back, or you gotta do
Yeah,
another this, you know,
yeah.
that's a lot of weight, and so the respect that we have for each other, but the love that she has for me, I don't think I could do it without her.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you mentioned earlier there's an album on the way. But what else can we expect from Terron Brooks in 2025?
Well, I mean, the album is the one thing.
Mhm.
I don't know if I should say or not, but I'm working on another show to produce.
Okay,
I
awesome.
got I got a great idea for another show which will really fulfill the fans.
Hmm.
I will hint the fans have been asking me to do something like this. So
Awesome.
and then hopefully by the year's end, I've written another book.
Hmm.
I'm an author. Hopefully I
Yes.
can get that published.
Hmm.
I got so much going on, man. My daughter's going to high school, so a lot of transitions too, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? But yeah, the music and this show that I'm about to produce are the immediate things for 2025.
Okay. And before we go, can you share your social media handles as well as a way the listeners can book you? And thirdly, a way that the listeners can sow a seed into your movement.
Yeah, so you can go to terronbrooksofficial.com. That's my website, to reach me for anything. But even DM me on
Mhm.
IG, Terron Brooks at IG, Terron Brooks. I answer. Facebook, I answer. I write people back.
Mhm.
And if you want to sow a seed, you can find me on Venmo if you want to.
Mhm.
That'd be
Okay.
amazing. But it's
Mhm.
Terron Brooks -1 on Venmo if you want to
Mhm.
support that way.
Mhm.
I hope you do. I hope people reach out because I really do reach
Mhm.
out to people and I really
Mhm.
respect my fans and people that follow
Yes.
me.
Mhm.
And then the music, get it on Spotify or Apple
Mhm.
Music. My
Mhm.
next single, which is called Weightless, I've been doing a
Mhm.
single a month if people been following, is
Mhm.
coming out May 30th. But right now you
Awesome.
can get Honest and
Mhm.
Uncomfortable
Mhm.
everywhere you stream music, man.
Yes. So, guys, we're joined by the incredible man of many talents, Mr. Terron Brooks. Go out and don't just stream it, but download it multiple times. Let's run these numbers up and really get behind all these amazing things that he's doing. Of course, if you see him on Broadway, go support. That way. Look out for the new upcoming projects he's going to be doing, and just support him. He's a good brother. He's doing some, like I said, some amazing things. So keep it locked here. We have Honest by Terron Brooks coming up right about now.